Hey, everybody, it's Drew Scooter from Sleep With Me podcast. This is Wednesday Wonder Nog tasting and answering Wednesday Wonder question. If you have questions about the podcast, we try to answer them on Wednesday Wonder. I don't know what the rest of the year will look like, but the best way to get your question answered is to submit it through. Send me a message through the contact form on our website. You can also put it in the comments, but depending on where you're watching on social media, you know, they don't necessarily, I can't necessarily see all the comments always because they don't have different algorithms, right? So best way if you have a question is to send me an email through the contact form on our website. The only reason I do that is because one, it goes right to me. Yeah, I mean, that's why. So all right, question corner and nog tasting. I made my own nog. We're going to do a nog tasting. This is it. It's not strained nog. I guess I made it the custard style where you temper the eggs. I have tasted already, so this isn't my first tasting of it, but it was a lot of work, and it said to strain it. I tried cheesecloth and I tried like a pasta strainer colander, and I tried a coffee filter, and none of them, it wouldn't go through them. So it's unstrained. I will say, I'll taste it on camera. Well, I'll taste it off camera because cream is, I don't know. But it was a lot of work. I may try the fresh egg method, but I don't put alcohol in it. Just because it was like, I managed to cook, not like spoil the eggs, but despite it tasting good, it does have a sulfur smell to it, which doesn't affect the taste at all, but it affects my desire to consume it. Oh, wait. Some sulfur smell's kind of gone. This is 2 days old. It's been in the fridge, obviously. Okay, so I'm going to taste it on camera. I'll probably have to thin it out. I'm almost done with it anyway. It really came out good. It's a much cleaner, because it's fresh, taste than the commercial nogs. A little bit like less sweet. Okay, for a comparison, I'm going to try this. This is a nog I bought at Target. Much thinner. This is pretty good. It's better than mine. Sweeter. A nice creamy. I used okay, so store nogs are a little bit more in your face. This Target nog is really good, or whatever the Target brand is, favorite day. Then this one is Clover nog, organic, a little bit pricey, and I realized, like, well, let's see a comparison. Look, this one I think I've tried last year. It's a little too, it's got maple syrup flavor. That, in my opinion, just doesn't work for me. It's also pretty thin. Target looks really good. My nog's more of a shake. Yeah, Target nog's the best. All right, I'm going to save these and mix them with coffee. What time is it? And have it as like a lunch, like make a smoothie with some other ingredients. All right, question corner. Okay, so a question came up a while ago. It wasn't a specific question, but with the end of the, by the way, everybody sharing your end of the year stuff, it's huge. But the question was like something about like, what are the demographics for the podcast, which is not something I really focus on. Like I think I'm pretty sure our demographics are pretty similar to most podcasts. But I do focus on some numbers. That's what I was going to talk about. The difference with demographics, the reason they're not as important for podcasts is because podcasts is like a push method. Like the podcasts are being delivered to you from our servers or a podcast host, and then you're listening to it on a podcast app, which is very different, right? Like everybody's using a different app, but we don't control the apps versus a service where you're going a place on the internet, like you're going to a store, to private property, right? Whether it's, well, I mean, most things on the internet that you go to and use, they're a lot different. You're on that business's private property, right? And whether you're using it to keep in contact with people or watch videos or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. It's just a much different thing because those places, they can monetize through your data, and then they know exactly everything about you and everything you're doing on their private property. So then they can advertise to you in that specific way. Like, their purpose is just to have you there on their property, right? And then while you're there, they can make money, right? So podcasting a little bit different. I don't think that's good. Whatever. So, but the stats I pay attention to, and particularly it's been great, everybody sharing their Spotify stats at the end of the year. So the stats I pay attention to are, some podcast apps do provide us with stats. They're anonymized. And so on Apple Podcasts, I can see the average consumption rate, and that's been going up, but it's always been over 100%. I'm going to see if I can pull up my Spotify thing too, to look at this one stat that blew my mind. But like, when I look at Apple Podcasts of how people are consuming it, it's like right now people are listening. The average consumption rate is like 140%. So it means the average person is listening to 140% of the episode. So episode almost 1.5 times. But remember, that's an average. So that means like there's a huge number of people on the other side of the spectrum, right, that are consuming, not like, that come and never listen. Like, they listen to 1 minute and they're like, this guy. There's a lot of people like that. And then there's a lot of people in the middle. And then there's a lot of people on the extreme end, because it's not an average person that's consuming at 146% or whatever. It's people that are listening to a lot, like these people that Sleep With Me is in your top 5 or top 10 podcasts, or it's the only podcast you listen to. And those are people that have been like desperate to get a hold of in the podcast and the ad reads to try to get a percentage of those people to support the show directly back. And that's why next year I'm just focusing on you, like the podcast that puts you to sleep. Like, because I have to make the podcast for all those people, right? Or that those are all the audience. But those people on the far end are getting a huge benefit from the podcast, right? And really consuming it. And there's not, because it, like, I don't know. It's just something I think about. Like, I think, and let's see. Let me check this Raptor real quick if I can get through it to this one number. But it was another one like similar to 146. I think it's like that super fans listen 20 times more episodes than regular fans. I don't know, like the super listeners. So if you're a super listener, yeah, I mean, maybe you don't even know it. Okay, let's see. People discover the show. If you're a clear favorite. The most popular episode on Spotify this year was IKEA Trip and Tangents 1225. I don't know if that was because somebody famous shared it or something, or it's always hard to know. Yeah, there's like demographic numbers, but that's not important. People listen to Sleep With Me in 131 countries. And fans have other shows they listen to, music. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to be efficient here, but okay, well, yeah, we're in a top 10 podcast for a large number of people. Like, particularly when you're like, man, we're in the top 10. It's like just trying to find a way in 2025 to find those, if you're one of those people, and say, hey, man, check out Sleep With Me Plus. And then for top 5 shows, a pretty big number of people. Okay, yeah. So I'm just guessing that this is like the top people on Spotify listen 10 times as much as other listeners. So that probably goes. That's what's interesting is like the demographics. It probably holds true on most other platforms. So anyway, that's a statistic. Those are. It's not a demographic thing. It's because we don't know, and I don't have a way to identify you through the podcast app, right? Like if podcasting was only through one company, right, and one company controlled it all, then we'd know, and we'd be able to like do things differently for those people because it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but thanks so much for the question. And thanks so much for caring about the podcast. Ask your question. And if you have more questions, probably more confused now. Thanks, everybody. Wednesday Wonder. Wrapping up.